Yeah, I was on Red Hat, and then
Mhm.
I went to, I think Fedora Core came out around
Okay,
about the same time. I
right.
think it's called Fedora Core,
Mhm.
and I was getting really sick of RPM stuff.
Mhm.
I was familiar with DLL hell on Windows, and the RPM hell was not much better.
Mhm.
So when my mate Hugo told me about Debian, it was the packaging thing that made me switch from Fedora Core to Debian. And I appreciate that things have changed over time, but that
Mhm.
really tainted my opinion of Fedora and Red Hat. And so I've stayed with Debian based distros since then.
What was it that was going like? What was it that was weird about RPMs? Because I don't know the story myself.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't so much. I think it was more to do with the way repositories worked back
Right.
then. And so you couldn't. It wasn't so straightforward that you could just do, RPM install
Mhm.
whatever, like Firefox,
Mhm.
although that didn't exist at the time. Um, you often had to go and get the dependencies, all the dependency RPMs, and you
Okay.
try and install an RPM, and it didn't work, so you had to go and get another RPM, and then you imagine having to manually go and get every dependency package
Right.
for a single package that you wanted to install. And if it was a big package and it had a lot of dependencies, then that was a lot of recursively going and getting, and then finding you're still missing something, and then going and getting it. And it just became frustrating and tedious to install anything that wasn't in the repositories. And there
Right.
wasn't a lot in the repositories at the time. So it was often that you would go off piste,
Mhm.
find an RPM online, try and install it, and then you couldn't because some library was missing, and you had to go and hunt that down,
Mhm.
install that, and then find that needed something else. And so there was this recursive, succession of RPMs you had to install. Whereas Debian, the repository, was chock full of stuff.
Mhm.
And I just didn't have that problem on Debian. So that went away for me. And I appreciate that some people, it was never a problem, or
Mhm.
they built a mental model that meant I will go and get all these dependencies, or I know what to do in this case. But for me, it was just annoying. And so I just switched.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, as like a modern example would be like piecing your Ubuntu system together from just random PPAs online.
Kind of. But even PPAs have dependencies, and it's more like
Sure, but like I guess because
like
there are the
it,
PPAs from like Pop! OS and then there's like Ubuntu ones, like using all of these ones from like these different SKUs of Ubuntu, where like you're not really sure if it'll fit together properly, but like you're gonna make it work somehow.
yeah. Yeah, we should talk about PPAs. Uh
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the modern equivalent is like if you go if you just removed the dependency tracking from Arch, and you did a
Right.
pacman install something, and it said, okay, I'll go and get that, and it goes and downloads it. And bear in mind, stuff took longer to download back then.
Sure.
So you take time to download, and then it starts installing and goes, no, you need something else. And then you install
Right.
that,
So it's
and then
not
you install
dependency
the next.
resolving in the same way that.
That was the main part, is the dependency resolution was a
Mhm.
bit rubbish. But yeah, once I switched to Debian, that all
Mhm.
went away, and I forgot all about that, and I never looked back.
So what year did you switch to Debian, if you remember a roundabout?
Uh, it probably wasn't a lot longer ago than I switched to Ubuntu. So Ubuntu was 2005.
Mhm.
So probably 2002, 2001, something like that.
Okay, so it's still a
Whenever
little.
it'll probably be just after Fedora Core came out,
I
whenever that was.
Fedora Core. I feel like it was maybe a little bit later. Fedora Core.
Could be. Yeah, I
Uh,
think Fedora Core and Ubuntu were like
I think they were about a
roughly
year
similar
apart.
times. Yeah.
Fedora Core 1 was 2003. Yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds about right. So 2003 switched to Debian, 2005 switched to Ubuntu. Sounds
Mhm.
about right.
Yep.